What day is it? Good morning, everybody. Morning, good evening, everybody. And how are we all doing today? It is Sunday, the 8th of August, 2024. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're having a great weekend. It's our Sunday night live stream. We're here to chat about nematodes today. And if you don't know what nematodes are, we will hopefully get into that in just a moment. In the meantime, let's see if anybody is actually out there. Over on Instagram, the Kentish Gardener has joined. Welcome along. Here on the other channels, we have got Adrian is there saying hello to Richard and all. Good evening to you. We've got Turbo Stream. Good evening, Veg Podcasters. Good evening to you. We've got Anna Costales. Good evening from Canada. Is Richard recovered? I would be in bed for the rest of the weekend. We'll get into that in just a moment. Good evening, Veg Army from Kate Spratt. Thank you. Good evening to you. We've got Digwell. Evening all. How's it hanging? Appropriate word. Hanging is exactly right there. Hello, everyone from Philly, SBB. Good evening to you. We've got Stuart Jackson. Evening, Richard and the Veg Army. Hope the feet are okay. I'll get into that in just a moment. Ian Sager, good evening. Well done to all done the walk today. Thank you very much. Good evening, Gardeners from Anna Jones. Have your legs fallen off with your feet, says Turbo Stream. Excellent. And Nicholas says, caught the sun, Richard. Well done on your heel climb. I have caught the sun a bit. Lottie Chef says, evening all. And Gary, good evening, Richard. Good evening all. Good evening to you. So let's get the topic that everyone's mentioning. Here's my certificate to say I made it to the summit of Mount Snowdon. We did it. We did it. We climbed Mount Snowdon. It was a lot of hard work, I've got to say. 9 of us plus Monty the dog all climbed up this huge hill. I've got to say it was really, really good time. We all got to know each other very well, and we didn't have any falling outs. We all held it together. We all helped each other out. I'm so proud of everyone that got involved. Got to the top and back. I think it was meant to be a 6-hour walk, but it turned into about a 9-hour walk. But that was fine. That was fine. Trouble is with content creators, we have to stop and take photos every 5 seconds, don't we? Otherwise, there's no proof we actually done it. So that slowed things down quite a bit. But yeah, we got to the top and we got back. I drove up to North Wales to our campsite on Friday. It took 8 hours of driving to get there. I left at 9. I got there at 5, and I didn't stop much. And then we set off just after 7. Got to the mountain for 8 o'clock. Started climbing at 8 o'clock. Got all the way up to by midday. Chilled out at the top with the calf. Even climbed up on the summit. I was fine all the way up until we got to the very top. Very busy at the top. And there's this final bit to really get on the real top of this mountain. And I've looked around. I'm scared of heights. I looked around and I suddenly realized that there's no handrail on the steps or anything. If I fall off, I am going down. I'm going a long, long, long way down. And I wasn't up for that. I didn't like the idea of that at all. And that kind of freaked me out. But everyone helped me out. We bunched together and we did it. We got to the very top. Then we came back down. We chilled out in the calf for a bit. Then we came all the way back down and had a dip in the lake afterwards. But everyone was aching. There was a lot of straps that were being in use. And we went back to the campsite. Luckily, I cooked everyone dinner in advance. So all I had to do was put it in my Dutch oven and warm it up. And we all could eat. And then went to bed, I think fairly early. I woke up about 4 this morning, realized I couldn't get back to sleep, so I started driving home, and I got home 10 o'clock this morning, had a little nap, had a soak in the bath, and now I'm raring to go. Although I haven't done everything we need for tonight. I was a little bit lazy, as I haven't done any videos or any photos, but don't worry about that. That's not important. The big thing, however, is how much we've raised for charity. And I'm just going to refresh and double check, because our aim was to get 3,000, and we actually got £3,765 raised, which is amazing. Enough to get 6 schools gardening. So very, very, very well done to everyone, I've got to say. So let's quickly go to the comments over on Instagram. DD Nicole 1965 joined. Geoff Eplick joined. Bearded Growers joined. Bearded Growers saying, "Evening, Rich. Hope you aren't in too much pain. Thank you for everything that you did for the projects." And Kiwi Chiki also joined. Bearded Growers, well done to you as well. Thank you so much for inviting me along. We've all had a lot of fun. And I can't wait to actually do it again, in all honesty. I'm so proud of everyone that took part. Richard Golden is there. Good evening to you. Hope you are well. We've got Turbo Stream. Have done a few charity walks, so I know how Richard is feeling. I was in Pembrokeshire for the last 2 days in rain. It's a good feeling now, I've got to say. It is a good feeling. Well done, Richard, says Turbo Stream. And Ian says, well done on your achievement. Thank you. Andy Jones says, well done. Jenny says, hello. Sorry, I'm late. Well done, Richard. Amazing. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Hope you had a great week, she also says. Skinny Jean Garner. Hello, matey. Hello, mate. How are you doing? Skinny Jean also climbed the mountain with me as well. So well done to him. Of course, Bearded Growers as well. So well done to them and everyone else that was involved. You would be no good where I was in Pembrokeshire, walking over edges of 100-foot cliffs. Yeah, that would freak me right out. What a weekend. Nicholas saying hello to Skinny. Highgrave Gas. Evening, everyone. Hope you've all had a great week. Hi, Jenny. The best weekend. Andrew Norris has joined. Evening to you and everyone. Good evening to you. Quick check over on Instagram. Nothing changed there. So there we go. Snowdon is done. We've raised money for charity. I do want to do it again. I absolutely love doing this. And the good thing is we've made friends. And, you know, this is the thing that I love about gardening is it brings people together. We are all friends. And it's one of the things that doesn't get acknowledged enough. Now, let's get on to tonight's main topic, because that's really what you're all tuned in for, isn't it? You don't want to hear me going on about all my aches and pains. So what we're going to talk about tonight is nematodes. Now, I'm going to throw this out. Well, we're going to into more than nematodes, actually. We're going to go into predators, natural predators. But I'm going to start off with nematodes. And what I want to see first is a raise of your hands if you have used nematodes before. And if you have, how did you get on with them? So just quickly, Stuart Jackson says, I can't say how happy I am. You have helped hundreds of children to get gardening. Well done all. It's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And I'm so pleased that we've done that. You know, not just for the children, the personal goal of climbing up Mount Snowdon. I've climbed mountains before in the Caribbean, Canada, in Greece. Mount Snowdon, I've got to say, has been the hardest one I've ever done. Nicola is agreeing with Stuart there. Jenny says, well done to your team. You all did amazing. 6 schools is absolutely brilliant. I'm blown away. I really am. And thank you for everybody that donated. Thank you. Really, really cannot thank you enough for that. It's been amazing. Billy Grows over on Instagram, Thunder Buddies for life. Mountain Buddies, I think it should be. Mountain Buddies. I think we've done great. I'm so pleased with everyone. I really am. No nematodes for me, says Jenny. Excellent, excellent. Why haven't you used nematodes? That's a question I want to ask there, though. Anna Jones has put her hands up and she's used them. Turbo Stream, I've never used or thought about using nematodes. Nicholas says, never. Thought about using mainly for slugs and snails. And Chili Kate, hi Richard, hi everyone. Well done, Richard and everyone. Thank you so much, Chili Kate. Hope you are well. Kate says, you guys were absolutely awesome. Well done. Thank you. I'm just hearing my chickens make noise there. And Moxie's gone out to see what's going on. Thank you. Stuart Jackson, never used nematodes. Don't really know what they are. Right. That seems like a good point to start off. So nematodes, they're basically a microscopic worm. And what they do is they're a natural predator. They're naturally found in all soils, so they're probably in your ground, whether you know they're there or not. But they may not be in high numbers. But what they are, they're a microscopic worm, and they will hunt down their particular prey. Different nematodes have different prey, as it might be called. Slugs and snails might be there's some caterpillars and things like that. And I've also I've used them recently on scarab fly, and they really work. They really work. But that's basically what they are: microscopic. And when there's not enough food around, they do die down. They're perfectly natural. Anna Jones, I've used slug nematodes and vine weevil nematodes. Very pleased with the results. Excellent. Kate says, haven't used nematodes, but since my recent load of seedlings got decimated again by slugs, I might try them. That's what we're going to discuss tonight. Digwell says, I use them, but stopped using the slug ones. Why did you stop using the slug ones? Jenny says, I haven't used them. You know me, I don't intervene. I leave Mother Nature to it. Fair enough. Fair enough. Why, Digwell? Rebecca says, good evening, Richard. Well done on your amazing achievements. So many children are going to have hours of fun gardening with the money raised. That's what it's all about. That is what it's all about. So, when we buy nematodes, what we usually get, because I've got a pack here that I've ordered especially for this, these are nematodes. It's a very fine powder. We add this to the water and we water it into our garden. Now, this particular nematode is a mixture of different nematodes, the one I've got here. This came from Ladybird gardening products. Roxy, it's okay. I can hear them. It all goes now. It's all going on, isn't it? This is a type. It contains. So I don't think it does slugs and snails, but it will do cabbage whitefly. It will do basically a wide range of problems that might affect our vegetables. So I'm just seeing a few questions come in, which I thought. I thought about using them, but wondered if they only work for a limited time, would the slugs just return again from the surrounding area? Yes. Now that is a very, very that is one of the problems, that they are only in the soil. Like most things, they're only in the soil when there's their prey around, like most animals. So once there's not enough prey around, their numbers will drop off, and that's when the slugs or whatever they may be will come back. And if you're on an allotment, then you know the slugs have an easier time because you really need your neighbors and so on to do it. But it does reduce numbers. I think that's the key thing. It's not so much about completely getting rid of a problem, it's more about reducing the numbers. And Kate says, is there any known negative impact of using them? Not that I know of. I'm sure that, and I'm thinking logically here, used on my Charles Darwin logic. Basically, if you've got loads of slugs in an area, there's going to be more birds that come in and eat those slugs. So if there's more nematodes, less slugs, less birds. That's the only thing that might cause a bit of a negative impact. But again, nematodes are naturally found in soils anyway. The slug ones kill all slugs, not just the 8 varieties that eat plants. They kill the 32 good varieties too. That is one of the problems with slug and snails. That's another negative thing actually. Slug nematodes, because they don't do snails. Sorry, they attack all of the varieties of slugs, not just the ones that we want to get rid of. So that is one of the negative impacts. Again, you've got to weigh that up if you want that on your conscience. Hi, Roxy. Slugs nematode do not kill snails. Nope. Digwell, need to reapply nematodes every 6 weeks. Definitely with the slug ones, you need to reapply them every 6 weeks. What actually inspired me, one of my allotment neighbours, he had used it on his potatoes and he got no problems with slugs on his potatoes. And that's why I got the nematodes for my house plants for the scarab fly. And they worked a treat. I will say they worked a treat. That's why I'm testing this one out as well. Ladybird Plant Care, that's what the company I was thinking for. Or Andermatt is the other one I use. Digger, I now remember you saying that before. Yes, there is. See my reply. How much are nematodes? Never got that far to find out. It does depend. So shop around. I think this pack cost me £10, and that's one application. If it works, you got to weigh up if it works or not. Yeah, I mean, the success I've had so far tells me that they work, but there could be problems with it in the future. Don't use nematodes, but use pheromone traps with great success. That's one of the things I do want to get into, other sources of how you tackle problems. Wait, there are good slugs? Yeah, there are good slugs. There's only really a very few slugs that really cause the problem. And a bit like most bugs that get blamed for the problems, they're not necessarily always the root cause of the problems. Slugs and snails are good in the garden because they actually eat up decaying waste. So we want them in the compost heaps. So let's have a look over on over here on Instagram. Sorry, we've got LBC Boots UK has joined. Life on the Lot has joined. Hello, well, another one of the climbers there. Biddy Grow says she's shouting at you for not taking up the mountain. Chris Bishop says the legend. Chris Bishop, I can't get my words out today again. Bearded Growers and Chris Bishop, of course, two people of the Bearded Growers group, all climbed up the mountain. There's three of us on over there. I've used ladybird larvae on my polytunnel, which was successful, but in the following year. Now, that's something actually I'm going to be getting into because I'm looking at ladybird larvae and things like that I've seen that these companies are selling, which looks great. Chris Bishop says, what a lovely tan. And Jude has joined. Hello, Jude. We were talking about you the other day, so we must catch up soon. So back over here, if we had nematodes, does it upset the natural balance? That's one of the things I think can happen, but that's no different if you bring in more of the natural predators as well. But at the same time, to have balance, you need the predators there to keep balance in check. And if you think about this year, where we've had a lot of wet weather, the slug and snail population has increased. And the birds, although I've seen a lot more birds in our garden on the good days, we haven't had them on the bad days so much. So there is an imbalance going on there to think about too. But that's all things that we have to work out when it comes to nematodes. Nicholas says, I don't think my chickens and ducks know the difference. That's a valid point, actually, talking about the slugs. Chicken and ducks may not necessarily know the difference, but neither will birds. It's all food to them. Digress says, yes, only 8 types of eat live plants. The rest eat dead veg, carry on, even other slugs. I was slug central on the Pembrokeshire coast, I noticed, LOL. There's a lot of them back. If it's wet, and it's all about that natural environment that they like, isn't it? They like that cold, wet environment. You have to excuse me. I've got 2 drinks in front of me tonight because I'm so thirsty for some reason. I don't know why. Right, Turbo Stream. I've so many slugs in my home garden, it's just not worth trying to control them. I now plant things they don't eat. I don't grow veg at home anymore. Now, this is it. I think often when we talk about nematodes, the slug nematode is the first one many people think of. But I come back to what I did with my houseplants and the compost, because obviously we're using more green waste compost these days, and there seems to be many more scarab flies or compost flies, as they're also known as, in them. And our kitchen was just full of these flies. Now, the flies themselves, the nematodes aren't going to do anything for the flies. We have to, I use carnivorous plants for that. But the larvae that are in the soil, and they can actually eat the roots, that's what the nematodes are there for. And they work great. They literally were within a day, they were tackling the problem. Jenny says, Jenny says, I had ladybird larvae only because I won them. I had far more ladybird larvae in the following years from having a nettle bed. See, you're actually coming up with, Jenny's actually came up with something. And I think now is the right time, actually, to move on from just talking about nematodes, because I do want to talk a bit more about these natural predators and how we can encourage those in. And I say that because when I went to Autopot, who, by the way, are on the podcast tomorrow, it's the Autopot special tomorrow. But when I was up their R&D department, obviously their R&D department is a sealed off area, but they were still having infestations of certain bugs. Every few weeks, he brought in some of these ladybird larvae or different types of natural predator larvae in order to keep the pests down. And again, I came away from that. And I remember at the beginning of the year, I had a whitefly problem in my kitchen once again. And I was thinking that because that's not it's in the kitchen, it's sealed out from outdoors, a natural sort of predator in that area might make a lot more sense. I'm a fan of slug pubs until it rains and then you have to waste a good beer. I don't drink beer. That's why I can't do it. I don't drink, so I couldn't do it. And I personally, I don't like killing anything unnecessarily. And by that, I mean, I'm happy if a bird or something else kills a slug or snail because I see that as just a natural way of something dying and it's going on to feed that bird. But just killing it for the sake of killing it doesn't appeal to me. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just not what I like to do. Tablet stream, on my allotment, the slugs aren't that much of a problem. I don't use wooden sides, so there's less hiding places for them. Yeah, I mean, I know some people say that. Sorry, I had a brain freeze there for a minute. Over on Kevin Rambles has joined over on Instagram. Nigel says, off topic, do you have a list? Oh, light out, Richard. The picture looks a bit flat. No, what it is, I haven't turned the ISO up as much as I usually do. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm going to. I might adjust something in a minute, but I can't even go. Actually, I can't adjust anything because I can't do much about it. Hang on, I might be able to think about it. Andy Jones, I once used a predatory mite that controls red spider mite, but the spider mite in our porch was multiplying so quickly they really didn't make much difference. It's a difficult one. I mean, again, I don't know about that particular predator, whether it'll work or not, or what conditions it needs, because that's the thing I've discovered when looking into this subject as well. Because my whitefly was a problem in January, and most of the natural predators, it's too cold for them. And even if we brought them in, it would have been too cold for them. The only reason that they worked, or the only reason we had whiteflies, because they were in the kitchen. They were in that summer, that warmer environment where they could really get going. Pauline King has joined. Good evening, Richard. Congratulations on the walk. Thank you so much. That's my auntie in Canada. Hope you are well. Anybody on Instagram, also go and follow her daughter, Reps and Roots. You see some lovely, lovely vegetables there. Hit the thumbs up, says Jenny. Yeah, please do hit that thumbs up, that like, that follow, that subscribe, and all the other stuff that we have to do. The Messy Allotment Tier has joined over on Instagram. I'm just going to see if I can quickly adjust something on that camera and see if it makes any difference. Wrong way. That better? Is that a bit better for you? It looks better for me. Yeah, I think that looks good. Nicola says she's already given us a thumbs up. So yeah, I'm looking more and more into these sort of natural predators, as I said, and I've noticed we've got caterpillar eggs out on the cabbages outside. So this is why I've got these nematodes to test and see how well they work. But you've got to think about the time of year. The trouble is if it's too cold, they're not going to work. They're just not going to hatch. Like most things, they need that right temperature. And this is where I think where I had this whitefly infestation in the kitchen over winter, January, February, it was too cold outside. We had no natural predators and nothing like that. And it was just too cold to do anything. Everything all right? Oh, okay. Sorry, that was Amanda. That was Amanda. Turbo Stream says, I suffer from green fly at home when raising seedlings more than slugs. I need to remember to get that grazer stuff. Always forget to buy some. Yeah, grazers is more of a calcium spray. I find it works great on slugs and snails. And I've sort of incorporated it into my gardening routine now. Greenfly, I'm not sure what natural, well, ladybird larvae, of course, they would attack greenfly, ladybirds. So that might work quite well. Better. Excellent. That's much better. Stuart Jackson says, I think as I have clay soil, I'm always going to have slugs unless the weather is really dry for long periods. So you're right. I mean, again, slug snails, they love that moist, wet clay soil compost that we have here in Littlehampton. And this is one of the problems, because I love mulching my soils. It's something I recommend everybody does. Mulching, mulch, and mulch. And I did use straw mulch, but I thought that made our slug and snail population worse because it just held on to all that moisture. And I got rid of it except in a couple of beds. I will say the straw as a mulch worked really, really well, but we did get slug and snail problems. I was reading about Ruth Stout the other day, who's the sort of American version of Charles Dowding, and she used straw and hay primarily, but I don't think she has many problems or had as many problems with slugs and snails as what we might get here. Nicolette, frogs and toads, natural predators. Absolutely right there. They are. And that's one of the reasons I've put a pond in at home, of course, with edible plants, as we spoke about a few weeks ago. But I wanted to incorporate those natural predators into my garden to really tackle everything. And so pond and hidey holes for them. And it does work. It really does work. It's if we can get more of the natural predators in, they're going to do the work when we're not there. Over on Instagram, my little patch of earth has joined. Home at Spring Cottage has joined, and Kev Moo Liverpool, sorry, has joined. Welcome along. We're talking about nematodes, natural predators. Have you used them, and what has been the result for them? Nigel says, I use straw mulch on my 30-litre potato containers. No slug problems at all. It might just be this year. I don't know. I can't remember if you're on a clay soil like me. I was really impressed with straw mulch. Just the fact that the slug and snail, but then we've had that problem even once I removed the straw mulch. So perhaps it wasn't the straw that was causing the problems. Nicholas says, me too, Nigel, using a straw mulch. But perhaps it wasn't the straw. Perhaps that's just I'm thinking too much into it being damp and everything. It's just been a damp year this year, though, hasn't it? Frogs and toads are slug eaters, but they can only eat as many as they need, so don't have a very big impact. I come back to what I've said before, though, isn't it? If we get a few frogs and a few toads, a few hedgehogs, a few birds, they're all going to eat a little bit, but what they all add up together totals quite a lot of slugs, quite a lot of snails that aren't going to be eating our own plants. As my kind of philosophy is, I don't like to kill anything unnecessarily. I prefer if a bird or something like that is going to kill it and eat it, I'm happy with that. That's why I don't use any pesticides at all. I hate the things. People can use them. It's not my place to tell people what to do, but I hate the things and I will not use them. Nigel says, use hay as a mulch one year and got infested with couch grass. Yeah, that is a problem. That is a problem. Digwell also says, I've given up with Strolch as a mulch. No effect. Strolch as a mulch. No effect, really. Might as well use plain straw. I like Strolch when I used it. I did like it, but I don't think I could justify using the cost of it. Although I think somebody did say they've used Strolch, and I think it was in this group, Strolch to prevent slug and snails at the same time. The messy allotment here is I am trying to use wool to top my soil this year to see if that makes an impact. That would be... We found lots of wool on Snowdon yesterday, funny enough. But that would be interesting if that actually works. I reckon it would. The linolin in wool that we know slugs and snails don't seem to like. If only I thought I'd travel light yesterday. Sorry to go on about yesterday again, but it's worth it. I thought I would travel light yesterday, so I didn't take a bag. I just took a bottle of water over my shoulder, and there was bits of, because obviously there's lots of sheep roaming around Snowdon. If only I picked up some of that wool to take home. I know some of us did, but yeah, I could have used that as a mulch. Nicholas says wool needs to be unwashed / natural. Yes, that's what I would have used. That's what I would recommend as well, because it's linolene stuff in it, the smell of it. So extreme slugs reproduce as so fast it's a losing battle unless you have dry conditions on natural predators that can eat the slugs faster than they reproduce. And that's the point. That's why it's all about getting as many natural predators as possible. And I think that's where nematodes can also come in. It's not about killing them off completely. It's about just getting them down to controllable levels. That dog tonight, Roxy, come here. That worked. I can't believe it. She listened to me. That is what I was getting at. Strolch is sold as a slug deterrent rather than a mulch. I did not. I've always seen it sold as a mulch, but I haven't really taken much notice lately. So I'll take your word on that. I mean, when I bought it, I used it on my onions and garlic down on the allotment, and I will say it did work. It did have quite a marked difference on my onions and my garlic. Watered less, weeded less. It just worked. But I don't think I can. It's like 20 quid a bag now or something like that. I can't justify the cost for that when there's better, cheaper options available. I've just spilled coffee all over the keyboard there. But yeah, and has anybody now, because we hit upon this slightly, raise your hands if you've actually brought any other predators in, maybe the ladybird larvae or things like that, and did it work? And what did you use? Nicholas says, I saw YouTube in USA that had copper wire through the bed. They said it reduced slugs and snails. I've heard of copper tape before. So I did an experiment this year. I haven't spoken about this. Autopot, they sell a Autopot tray, which I quite like, and I've been using it for seedlings. And what I did is I started off. It comes with copper tape that goes around the side. I started it off, and I noticed there were slugs and snails. I moved the slugs and snails. I put the copper tape round, and since then have not seen a single slug and snail. So I think it can work. Now, do we put copper wire all through our bed to reduce slugs and snails? I don't know. Is that going to work? It might well work. I don't know. But copper is expensive, is something to remember as well. Taboo Stream says, my garden is northwest facing and mostly damp, so the slugs will always win. My allotment has a lot more sunshine, so seems to be less affected by slugs. Again, that's natural environments, isn't it? As we've said, the reason we've had a lot of slugs and snails this year is partly due to the very, very wet year we've had. The mild winter also didn't help. The messy allotment tier, unfortunately, when you're on Instagram, I can't bring up the comments like I can on the other channels, but the messy allotment tier said, I would ask your local sheep farmers, they often give it away. As I said, there was loads of it that had obviously just fallen off sheep, just lying on the grass on Snowdon yesterday, and I should have picked more of it up actually. Haughty wool, I've got some of that I've put into the compost heaps. Again, that does seem to work. Haughty wool, they're at Glee this week, I think. They're like hanging basket liners or wall trainers and things like that, made of wool. And I know at the moment, we know that wool farmers are struggling. So I want to support wool farmers where I can, as long as it makes sense, of course. Nigel says copper wool attached to a 9-volt battery does work. Copper wire, sorry. I'm just wondering, what if you've got high copper in your soil naturally? Would that work? Copper oil or something? Charles Dowden says to use copper tools better for the soil. Makes sense. Copper is naturally found in soil. I mean, you could say that about most stuff, though. Um, Again, copper is very expensive, is the only thing I would say. Stuart Jackson, I fed the hedgehog every evening. I have seen them eating slugs and snails, so I think that's money's well spent. Yeah, I mean, I think it is. You got to remember, a lot of people say hedgehogs will eat slugs and snails. They will only reduce. I'm going to say this before Digwell gets in with it. They will only eat a certain percentage of what they want. But as I said, even if it only eats one or two a night, that's one or two less eating your plants. Nigel says farmers will give the DAG from the DAG from sheep clippings. There we go. I did not know that, so I'm learning something here. Using a sand or water bath to stand your trays in also works, and it's very cheap or free. Sheep fleece is amazing and one of my favorites, but please be careful of ticks. Ticks can be a problem, especially if you have got dogs. I just quickly check on Instagram. Nothing going on over there. I suspect everyone's shattered. Everyone's shattered. Nicola is asking Nigel how long the 9-volt battery will last like that. Would it not short out in the soil as well, especially if it rains and this conductivity? I guess the 9-volt, it's not that conductive though. I also feed the birds, so I think that helps with some insects, white and green fly. Now, I actually think we're getting into the real crux of the matter of what we should be doing. One of the problems as gardeners that we have is we're too tidy. Roxy, stop that. She's in a bad mood today. One of the problems we have, sorry, Amanda's not happy now. One of the problems we have is that we are too tidy as gardeners, and nature does not like tidy gardens. So when we're tidying things up, we're removing all the natural habitats, and that doesn't help keep the predators and things like that in our gardens. We need to be less tidy and more nature conscious, and it can be done when we're growing our own food. I'm trying to go and visit a garden at the moment that they're very much about rewilding. So everything is done to bring in nature and rewild the area. But they've got a market garden and a kitchen garden that are done with rewilding in mind. I've got to go and visit them and make a podcast because I think it's really, really interesting. Digwell says, just looked at the Strolch website and it has totally changed. Hardly a mention of slugs compared to 2 years ago. Just list now. Slug and snail deterrent. The physical properties of Strolch, together with the embedded minerals, discourage slugs and snails. So they definitely have reduced that. Turbo Stream. I've never seen a hedgehog in my area of Birmingham. You need to get them in. You can often find that they're in animal shelters where they've been injured and they're looking, and I think they should be released on allotments, to be honest with you, but they are looking for homes, secure gardens where they can release hedgehogs into the garden. I think they could release them on allotments though as well. A few hedgehog houses scattered all over the place would go down well. Margaret says the farm will sell you a whole fleece for about £5, but only as they are shearing in and around May. Fantastic. Margaret, of course, used to live on a sheep farm, so she can, I think she did anyway, tell us more about that. Slugs only make up 4% of a hedgehog's diet. That's exactly what I was saying. Pauline says we were plagued with greenfly this spring summer. We considered buying ladybirds from I've gone. Hang on. I'm still here. Oh, there we go. As I touched that, we were plagued with greenfly this spring summer. We considered buying ladybirds from a local greenhouse, but in the end, we didn't. We now have an abundance from ladybirds that has all happened naturally. So it's nice to see nature doing its thing. And this is the thing. This is actually the kind of crux of the matter. We could do all these things that involve spending a lot of money to get these natural predators here. And I come back to what I said earlier on. If we're a little less tidy, nature is going to find its way. And I think that's the important thing. We try and bring in all these wildlife naturally into our garden, it's going to be much better than anything we can do. And I say that as somebody that's experimenting with nematodes at the moment. Have a quick look. Tebs Benny, sorry, has joined over on Instagram. Wool works if you haven't watched it. I do use copper rings sometimes and they work well, sometimes not. Margaret says you don't want the daggins. Why not? What's bad about them? Big Long Dong. We had a badger at the bottom of our garden last week. It was surprisingly large. They are, though. They are. I mean, I think they're like mini bears with how aggressive they can be. Love badgers. They are aggressive. My granddaughter has got a tick, says Digwell. Big worry about the red mark for a while, but tested okay for Wells disease. I can't pronounce that today. And that's one of the risks. Again, this is what we worry about with the dogs. They're susceptible to things like that. They are susceptible to ticks. And that's one of the risks when we've let grass grow too long, as councils have been doing lately, is that there can be a problem with ticks. Turbo Stream says, I don't feed the birds as there are few cats around my garden. I would hate for a bird to be caught because I was encouraging them in my garden, then a cat caught them. See, I've known actually people, and cats are actually, I know there's going to be cat lovers in the group, and that's absolutely fine. But I'm told this is fact. Cats are one of the worst animals for wildlife because they hunt so much of it. And as said, if they're hunting the birds, they're going to be hunting mice and things as well, which also eat slugs and snails. Rats do anyway. So I've known people that make their gardens cat proof to encourage birds. So talking about that 9-volt battery and copper wires, it's been going for after 2 months. I kept a battery in plastic food container. It gives off a very low current, which really works. So that's quite a while. That's quite a while. Bedo says, evening all and well done, Richard. Thank you very much, Bedos. Adrian, I cannot give my fleeces away. I end up burning them. Adrian is, of course, sorry, Adrian, I completely forgot you are a sheep farmer. So I would, this is one of your prime example. You know, fleeces are great for keeping away slugs and snails. And there you are, you cannot give them away. You have to burn them. We should be doing what we can to support sheep farmers, in my opinion. If you mix flowers amongst your veggies, this will help with pests. This is what we are trying at school. Yeah, nasturtiums and marigolds and things like that, bringing those in. Again, natural predators, ladybirds. I'm trying to think of some other natural predators. My brain is not working very well today. So if you want to throw out some other things that we can bring in, let us know. Pop 50p in a meter itch. Yeah, I am very, very much like that today. Can you blame me? I climbed a mountain yesterday. I was very high up. But for the kids, it's all for the kids. Daggins are from the rear end. Okay, there we go. Dagging is the process of removing wool from the sheep, and also say daggins are right. Yeah, with you. I'm with you. I told you, my brain is not firing today. Nicola, I had a badger in my laundry for a few weeks. Forgot to close the door. They're aggressive, though, and they're territorial. I mean, they're great animals, but they are aggressive. Pauline says that's very interesting about being less tidy. We neglected to weed more this summer just due to the intense heat we've had. Lucky you. And not getting outside to weed. So maybe that's the way to go in the future, untidy veggie beds. You know, I actually do agree with that. As much as I hate the look of untidy veggie beds, it is the way to go because it does actually bring in more natural predators. Nip Castle, they've got a market garden, they've got a kitchen garden, a walled kitchen garden. I've really got to find out what they've done there to make it rewilding and what have you, because I think that's really, really interesting. I totally agree, but no one wants them. Talking about the sheep's skin. Keeps wall, sorry. For 2 years running, I've planted courgettes and squash plants within a circle of bramble stalks. It works really well, I must say. Excellent, excellent. I love all these ideas because we started off talking about nematodes, and the overall impression I'm getting from you about nematodes is you're not keen on them for a variety of reasons. But now we're getting on to what other methods you've used that are much more natural and the way we like to, or I certainly like to garden anyway. Cats are, Richard. Keep them in around sunrise and sunset. My youngest has a collar and a bell. Yeah, cats are one of the worst predators for natural wildlife. I think that's, I'm trying to remember the correct wording for it. I've tried copper mesh this year, sort of like an unraveled pan scourer. It seems to work, but it's so hard to quantify, really. Interesting, interesting. Trouble, I mean, I get lots of copper pipe I could use, but copper is expensive. That's the downside. I can get hold of it because of my job, but it is expensive. Ticks, says Stuart Jackson, we should all check ourselves after a walk in the field. Didn't do that, sorry. Check and check and check again. They are nasty things. Yeah. Did somebody go for a walk in the field at all? This year, I planted onions alongside the cauliflower and cabbages under the veggie mesh. I had no aphids at all. And that's interesting because when I've done, I don't tend to net my brassicas, as you probably know. When I have netted them in the past, we've got loads and loads of aphids on them. I'm not too worried. But what we found is because the young birds, the thrushes and the little birds, they couldn't get to the aphids, they couldn't tackle them. As once I removed the net, the birds could get to them and the problem sorted itself. So I'm not a fan of nets for that very reason, but it worked for you. So I can't knock that. Nicholas says, I wear wellies mostly on land, summers as well. I'm always in trousers, so I'm okay. Ticks can give you Lyme's disease, similar symptoms to long COVID. It's nasty. I know that one much. Jenny says, I'll pop a photo on the Facebook page of my old veg garden. Wild and wonderful, hardly any damage, full of wildlife from birds, bugs to birds of prey. Such a joy to harvest and witness, to be a part of. And that's exactly how I want my vegetable garden to be. Wildlife coming in. Now, over on Instagram, the Messy Allotment here says, on the allotment sites, I feel that leaving wild areas is discouraged. I do it as it's beneficial to wildlife and it helps keep allotment pests down. I encourage the birds also. And you know what? This is absolutely right. This is one of my things that I'm trying to discuss with my allotment site is they want to put in some apple or a mini orchard basically alongside the fence for everybody to use. And we used to have wildflowers there, which when we had the wildflowers, not only did they look lovely, but we also had natural predators and a lot more wildlife. Since they've gone, although we do have quite a few let wild allotments, shall we say, particularly my neighbour, but we could do with more of that. We could do more of these natural wildlife areas on allotments. She also goes on to say, I think I'm lucky. I know my local farmers and they contact me if they have spare. I always give them something for them as it costs to share. And I love supporting my local farmers. I also use wall pots. We were talking about wall pots yesterday as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for supporting local farmers. And I think it's right. If we can, you know, if we can have a chat with a lot of our local sheep farmers, buy the wool, buy their manure if possible as well, and try and support them a little bit more because I know they do struggle. I said it for any farmer though. Nigel says, I net my brassicas because of SAS pigeons, but not as many whitefly this year as usual. Yeah, yeah. I mean, as I say, I don't do it, but that's me. If I didn't net brassicas, the pigeons would soon destroy them. It's very true. They do like them, don't they? Always check a dog's crutch rear leg area, easiest place for a tick to latch onto. Yeah, as there is no hair. Is that I was saying with people who has no hair as well, isn't it? They can latch onto there quite easily in some if they lie down, of course. I regularly watch badgers quite close, and they're visually oblivious to us, but timid to the slightest noise and will disappear with haste. Yeah, they're fascinating creatures, absolutely fascinating creatures, and I love seeing wildlife whenever we can see them and out and about and everything. It is what we need to see more of. I kind of think that's the vibe I'm getting from you. You're all kind of in agreement with me. Does anybody actually use pesticides? I'm going to throw that question out there. I know it's a dirty word, and if you do use it, there is absolutely no criticism from anybody. You do you. We're not going to knock you for using pesticides. So feel free to say if you do use them and why. I got a feeling that most of you aren't going to be using pesticides in any form, but I could be wrong. I'm going to throw that question out there. As I said, apologies. I haven't got any videos. I couldn't cook the recipe. We're going to save up for next week. The mission, I can't remember what it was. I was hoping the mission was to climb up Snowdon, in which case I've done it. I've got a certificate to prove that I've done it, as well as lots of photos from everybody. I'll leave that there for a minute. But yeah, does anybody out there use any pesticides? Turbo Stream says, I would love not to have to net anything, but in urban environment, there ain't many natural predators. It's also not worth the bother sometimes. So I don't use I don't use nets. I don't get many problems with pigeons, not entirely foolproof, but I also find my ADD, if I've got a net in a way, it's harder for me to weed. So that's another reason I don't net, or the main reason I don't net, to be honest with you. Yes, use glyphosate on the mare's tail. Glyphosate isn't a pesticide, is it? It's a herbicide. Again, I don't use weed killer myself, but I do believe there is a certain space for weed killer in extreme circumstances. Richard, dirty word. No pesticides here. Excellent. I use DDT until it's all gone. Only joking. That's banned in the 80s. If you've still got that left, you must have a lot of it. Don't dismiss ticks just because you are wearing trousers. No, they can stay on them for days or even crawl up and down your stomach or shin. Yeah, they're nasty things, aren't they, those ticks? Andrew says, I've never used any pesticides. Most villages don't have the money to buy them. Everyone grows pretty much organically as a consequence. Fair enough. Fair enough. Digwell says, I use pesticides. What pesticides do you use? Stuart, I have not used pesticides for the last 5 years. Also, never used them at schools. Excellent. Excellent. And DDT was organic. Did not know that. Did not know that at all. Over on Instagram, Phoenix Biochar CIC joined. I was checking you out because I was after some biochar the other day, and I bought some from you years ago. Are you still operational? Let me know. The messy allotment here, I grow organically. Excellent. So you don't use pesticides at all, I'm guessing. She also goes on to say, homemade fertilizers and garlic water in a spray bottle does discourage green fly. I tried garlic in a spray bottle. I couldn't get on with it. It couldn't work for me. Possibly because it was I needed to make too much or so much of it. It just didn't go far enough. But or I did something wrong. It just didn't work for me. I can't believe just how thirsty I get today. A lot of water has been drunk. Digwell says DDT is persistent organic pollutant, POP. It is made by humans and does not occur naturally in the environment. DDT was used as an insecticide to prevent the spread of disease and to protect crops. As before, organic means nothing. Yeah, I've always got problems with the organic label because what does that actually mean? And but that's a debate we can have another time. Lewis Juba, I hope I pronounced that correctly, has joined over on Instagram, on the gram, as they say. On the gram. I said nobody else is using pesticides. Not a problem with that at all. Not a problem with that at all. Nicholas says dehydrated from yesterday and muscle use from yesterday. You know what? You know the test for if you are dehydrated. I've been doing that and I'm absolutely fine. I drank plenty. That was something I made sure I did. I think it's just. I think I'm naturally a thirsty person, to be honest with you. I do think I drink a lot. I use DDT, neem oil, glyphosate, petrol, amp powder, nuclear bombs, mustard gas, and still the slugs eat a lot. Not really, not a drop of pesticides used on my plot. I'm actually quite encouraged that most of you do not use pesticides. As I said, I've got no animosity to anybody that does use pesticides because I don't think it's right for me to tell people what they can and can't do. But I am really encouraged that most of us don't use pesticides. Or perhaps the correct question I should have asked was, do you use non-organic pesticides? Although I've always got problems with the label organic, because what does that actually mean? What does that actually mean? It is one of those things that we could debate for a very, very long time. Nicholas says, think I have old bottles of various stuff in the shed. It must be 10 years plus since I used anything. Really ought to find a safe way to get rid of it. Yes, I don't know how easy it is to get rid of a lot of that stuff anymore. I tend to use it all up because I don't like having stuff hanging around for too long. Digwell, I use whatever organic pesticide is needed to deal with the pest in question if I need to. So you organic pesticides. When I said pesticide, was that what you were alluding to? Organic pesticides. I think that's possibly a better way of wording it, isn't it? Organic pesticides or non-organic pesticides. SB Plant Invigorator is another I use. Is that? I think that's organic though, isn't it? And that's more of a foliar feed, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, it's all good. It's all good. Time string. Despite you not liking netting, it's really the way I can reasonably ensure I get food to eat from my allotment, and that's the important thing. Ultimately, as I said again, I don't have the right to tell people what they can and can't do. I'm impressed that you use netting because I can't get on with it because it gets in the way from my stuff. But either way, whatever works for you is what we want. Ultimately, as long as you're getting all the food that you need, that's the important thing. Brian's Garden Polytunnel has joined and says hi all. Oh, my eyes are starting to go. And Amanda Joy, well done for yesterday, Richard. I bet you're ready for a rest. No pesticides on my plot, but each to their own. I understand why people feel the need to use them. I think that's right. I think there are better ways, but I'll put it like this. If farmers used these better ways, there would not be a market for the pesticides. The amateur gardener is not a big market for pesticides overall. And I think that's where most of the stuff comes from. Graham Arnold, evening all. Late today is definitely feeling autumnal. Hope everyone's had a great week. Fantastic week, thank you, Graham. I'm looking forward to getting to bed at some point. Over on Instagram, Linda Moore 306 has joined. Welcome along, lovely to see you. My phone keeps going off as well. It's very distracting. Digwell says, we will soon see comments about homemade pesticides using bicarb, soap, etc. Still a pesticide. You know what? I totally agree with you there. And I come back to what I was trying to say earlier. And I guess we've got half an hour to go if we go full term tonight, which I think we're going to. What is organic? What is organic? How do you define what is organic? I say that because if we are gardening, by definition, we've not got an organic garden because we are going in there and changing things. If we had an organic garden, everything that grew in that garden would just grow there organically by its own. We wouldn't need to do anything. So what is organic gardening? What is organic? Nigel, if I could grow healthy crops without the need for spray, nets, etc., I certainly would. Just can't see months of work remaining as a stalk. Completely agree with you. for the sake of you not using a spray or net. I come back. If it works for you, I've got no problems with it. And I totally agree, because all that time, effort, materials, and stuff that you've put in to grow some food for it to be ruined before you can actually harvest it. So you don't get to benefit, but you've wasted all those resources, can be a bad thing. Sorry, I'm spilling it all over me as well. But I come back to, what is organic? What is the definition of organic gardening? How would you define it? What would you define organic gardening as? I've read that one, haven't I? Sorry. Digwell says examples of inorganic pesticides include copper sulfate, ferrous sulfate, copper, and sulfur. Organic pesticides contain carbon in their chemical structure. So I come back to what I was trying to say, my thought. Copper sulfate. Now, I'm going back. I'm trying to remember. The copper is naturally found in certain soils, especially around a copper mine. I saw some of it yesterday. It's mined out of the ground. So in places, copper can be naturally found in the ground. But you add that sulfate, and all of a sudden, it's not organic. What's made that not organic? Digwell, examples of organic pesticides include captan, permethrin, and glyphosate. Yeah. Thermostream, I don't see beer traps as an organic method for slug control either. It's a method for slug control, I would say. My most frequently used organic pesticide is a size 7 Wellington, says Anne. Yeah. That's a pesticide, organic pesticide, exactly. Rightly or wrongly, I think of organic as natural, nothing man-made. Now, I kind of feel you are right there, but define man-made, because if you cut down a tree and you take that tree and cut it into planks of wood, is that wood still man-made, or is that natural? Define that. Very vague to define organic, says Nigel, in terms of how long soil should be left untreated. Yeah, it does make you think. How do you define organic? How do you define that? I prefer. I think the my definition would be natural. I garden naturally. I grow my vegetables naturally. I think that's the way I would define it. But then there's things that plastic pots and stuff, they're not natural. So does that work? Anne says never use pesticides, but I bet my parents' generation did. I agree. But you got to remember, back then, not only were they very desperate, especially post World War II and even during World War II, they were very much, they had to grow food because, especially in the UK, we were rebuilding after the war. And pesticides were a new thing, and the companies were really pushing them to try and keep farmers producing food and keep businesses rolling, of course. What actually, and this is where I think one of the problems is, because of all these unnatural fertilizers and feeds have gone into the soil, they've killed life in the soil, so then they need to add more of these unnatural feeds and fertilizers to get the same result. So it's became worse and worse. We need to be feeding the soil. I've gone way off on a tangent, which, considering how tired I am, is quite amazing. But that's my theory. We've eroded the soil so much that we have to add all these feeds and fertilizers to make up for it. The best measure is if it's approved by the Soil Association, if it's good for soil. Grow vegetables naturally, but in metal beds. Exactly right. That's kind of my point. Is that natural? How long to fully rid the soil of chemicals? Read the old garden books. Yeah, absolutely right. I have all sorts of pesticides in my shed my mum used. I'm not sure where to take it to. I think your local tip can dispose of them. Contact your local council to find out more. I used netting once on my brassicas, but ever since I'm too lazy. And guess what? The brassicas are not getting eaten. That's actually what I found. I don't get my brassicas eaten by pigeons and stuff. I could be very lucky. We may not have many pigeons around here. We do get a lot of seagulls, and perhaps that scares off the pigeons. I don't know. Nothing going on over on Instagram. Yeah, I come back to this. I'm wondering why I don't feel the need for using nettings and why I don't get pigeons eating my food. I don't know. Do metal beds and poles introduce ferrous oxide into the soil? And these are all questions. These are very good questions. If a metal bed will rust, which over time it will, don't care whether it's stainless steel or not, it will rust. That's then putting that iron ore or iron oxide into the soil. Bamboo canes. Bamboo canes are another one. They're not naturally found in this country, although you can have bamboo growing. If you're using those, is that natural? Is that natural or natural to find in this country? I don't know. We're going way, way, way into this now, aren't we? We started off with talking about nematodes. We've now talking about what is organic gardening. Nigel is saying, bring back plastic beds. You know what? I know plastic went through a bit of a few years back where it was another dirty word, wasn't it? Plastic. And I think it's definitely the case in single-use plastic. It is a very, very dirty, bad thing to use. But what I would say is plastic can also be a very good material to use in the right places. I've mentioned plastic garden pots, which can be reused time and time again. Water butts are mostly plastic because they're very good at holding on to water. I don't think wood would do such a good job, and it wouldn't last as long. I think there's a place for plastic. There's also a place for other materials. And using plastic, I come back to what I said earlier, is plastic organic? I don't think it is. Digma says, I'm wondering if my pests have got used to the grazer's product, evolution, etc., survival of the fittest. It's possible, isn't it? Because I'm certainly wondering the same. And I think that's why it's good to change things up every now and then and try different things. Grazers basically is a calcium-based spray that 4 different blends, that they work quite well, but over time would they soon get used to it and not be so affected? Mix things up, change things around. I would think these galvanized and plastic coated beds would leach stuff into the soil too, just like creosote used to, wasn't it? That's why one of the reasons creosote was banned, because it leached chemicals into the soil. Oh. Nigel says, grew my carrots in large plastic tanks, and I've got absolutely no problem with that. You know, and as I said, veggie pod, plastic, perfect material for them. If they were wood, they wouldn't hold on to water so well. If they were glass, they would probably smash in seconds. If they were metal, they would get too hot in the sun. Plastic does have its certain advantages. Digwell, you are breeding a new generation of greenfly that feeds on grazers. But this is actually, we're making a joke of it, but that's a very strong risk. It's evolution. As we know, it only takes one fly or one carrot fly, for example, to not be affected, of green flies, sorry, to not be affected by the grazers. And that breeds and that genetic gets passed on and on and on. And pretty soon they are invulnerable to it. It's happened on the microbes, isn't it? Where the super bacteria, whatever they were, super bugs, super viruses that were penicillin was no good against, because they've adapted to survive. This gardening lark is hard, isn't it? Yeah. It's going completely against my sort of theory or my stance that gardening should be simplified. We should keep gardening simple, but you are right there. It does get complicated. My argument for any jelly head moaning about plastic is to ask what their socks or tights are made of. Usually some form of polyamide, which contribute to the microplastics in the soil, etc., etc. Yeah, I mean, this is one. I think you've hit upon one of the problems. I've got no problems with plastics that are reusable. I will use, I mean, it's why I've got so many plant pots. I will reuse them over and over and over again. And when they break, we will recycle them where they can, in theory, be melted down and reused again and again and again. It's the single use that is the biggest problem. These microplastics that are the problem. And it's like the little plastic, you know, when you buy clothes and they put that little plastic thing through that the labels, you know what I mean? They attach the labels onto your clothes and it's got that plastic thing to hold it all into place. That's really not necessary. Really not necessary. Same resistance is happening with blight resistant varieties. It proves my complete point that all these bugs, all these viruses and things are getting resistant to certain things. I heard that Crush and Sarpo on ones are struggling with the new strains. Yeah, it is happening. There are things going on there. As how they buy their compost. As how they buy their compost. Oh, ask how they buy their compost. Talking about that's something else that has annoyed me. I found a nursery that actually sells compost by the bucket and the reusable bucket, which I think is a much better way rather than those plastic bags. Although there are companies, I'm trying to remember the company I'm thinking of, the seaweed company. I think their plastic bags are actually compostable, or their compost bags, sorry, not plastic, are compostable, which I think is the way we are going. Jenny says, my metal raised beds are only a temporary measure. Thick clay, I need a year or two to improve the soil. Again, we're not saying you shouldn't be using them at all. We're just saying, where does this organic label? What is organic? Is it unnatural or man-made materials, unnatural materials? Don't know. Then I will use logs to edge the side. I do grow sunflowers to pull out nasties from the soil. Good idea. The other one was the mustard is a biofumigant, isn't it? It can fumigate the soil. We're all doomed, Mr. Manowin. Oh, yeah, it does get a bit like that when all these naysayers, and I feel bad saying naysayers, but all these points that are made about all these problems that we have in the world, we're all just trying to live, aren't we? We're all just trying to live. We want to do the best lives, especially as gardeners. We want to live the best lives that we possibly can and make the most of it. It's that one finished. It's been a struggle. It's been a struggle, but we're getting there. We're getting there. We've got about 15 minutes left to go tonight. So if anybody's got a question or something they want to throw in for the last 15 minutes, please do go ahead. The next week, I'm going to do the cooking that I was meant to do this week next week. And what I need from you, I need a mission, a challenge that I can do over this next week. I've got a busy weekend next weekend thinking about it, so I'll have to do it during the week. On Tuesday, if it does help, Tuesday, I'm visiting a garden trade event. I'm going to see some of you there, I hope. And on Sunday, I'm visiting some community gardens, which is what I want to talk about next Sunday, community gardening. If that's all right with you, of course. Digger, Atlantic compost. Thank you. Atlantic compost. Compost bags are so degradable. They must be empty within 2 weeks of delivery. That's the type of compost bags I want. Are they at Glee? I think they are. Hope to see them. I think the term organic, especially in the supermarkets, just equates to more profit. You are right there, because I think it's wrong that organic gardeners have to pay to get the organic label. It should be the other way around, in my opinion. Non-organic gardeners should have to pay to not be organic. Organic gardeners should get it. Still do the checks, still do the tests, but the non-organic gardeners should be, the non-organic farmers, should be the ones having to pay, in my opinion. It's the wrong way around. And that just goes to show how messed up the system is, that we think that we have to pay for natural food. You can tell how this is annoying me a bit now. We have to pay more for the next for organic food. It's the wrong way. For more like that. Sorry, as one of my bugbears about it. And I can see a few of you are agreeing with me. I get really annoyed with that. See you Tuesday, says Tigwell. And Nigel says, see you next Tuesday. I see what you did there. Yeah. Not on the glee list. Guys in Cyprus at present having a well-earned break. Right. I've got a few meetings set up on Tuesday. It's going to be a busy day. I'm looking forward to seeing both of you there as well. When you get there, try and meet up for a cup of coffee or something. There's a lot of people going on Tuesday. Turbo Stream, organic means twice the price. It's the wrong way round. In my opinion, it should be the other way round. We should be telling the non-organic gardeners, the non-organic farmers, they are to pay. The Messier Lomatier says, I think simple is key. It doesn't have to be complicated. Work with nature and take care of your soil. This is something else that does annoy me. It should be simple. Why is it we can go into a garden centre and there's hundreds and hundreds of different types of compost, different types of plant feed and fertilizers? It overcomplicates things as well. It should be simple. You use this compost or this compost. You use this plant feed or this plant feed. Simple. I'm on a high horse today. You've got me on a high horse. That's just woken me up. But it is right. It is right. Stuart Jackson, I think your challenge should be put your feet up for a few hours. Yes to community gardens next week. Don't worry, I'm having an early night tonight. I've got tomorrow off work as well. I'm doing a podcast, of course, but I'm having time to myself tomorrow. It's all arse backwards, says Jenny. Organic cost more. Free from food made with natural ingredients costs more. Being eco-friendly costs more. When I'm PM, I'll sort it out. Please do, because it is the wrong way around. Turbo, you are correct, Richard. Organic should be cheaper than chemical food. Same as ultra processed foods should be more expensive. Completely. A carrot. Let's face it, a carrot is cheaper than ultra processed food, but people don't think a carrot is going to fill them up. But that ultra processed food that is full of crap will not fill you up any more than that carrot. In fact, I would say that single carrot will fill you up more, especially if it's organic. I'm on one. I'm tired and it's bringing my temper out. I made your tromboncino slices in breadcrumbs last night and they were great. Thanks, Digwell. Lovely. No meeting set up, playing it by ear. Haven't you if you go to the app, you can actually set up meetings for this thing, if that's any use to you anyway. Well, so glad you liked them. A veg podcast meetup to climb Ben Nevis. Well, Lee has suggested we do all three next year. I think he's got a bit of the mountain climbing buzz now. I'm kind of up for it, but we need to train for it, and I need to lose weight, so it's going to work for that. Organic food should be cheaper as the farmer has put less onto the crops. This is my point. It should be, but they've got to pay for the certification, which I think is wrong. They should be given a certification, and people who don't have the certificate should be the ones paying, in my opinion. I mean, let's think of Ofsted. I know they're changing the Ofsted rules, but you don't pay more to have a higher grade. It's done on what they see fit to award you. You don't get. Digwell says, best place to be on a high horse. Plant food is so easily made, as I have shown the children at school. Completely. Best not take your blood pressure readings tonight. They're all over the place anyway. Organic will always be dearer. For a start, the fertilizer is more expensive and the source materials too. I mean, you were right, but it doesn't need to be. For me, the point is, why should the certification is what makes it expensive as well? And why do organic gardeners have to pay for that certification? It should be the other way around. Really should. And I'm also going to say that it should be, and non-organic farmers. I know I don't know how Adrian farms his sheep, so I hope he doesn't take this personally at all. But non-organic farmers should be paying more. I mean, I support farmers no matter what, but they should be paying more or their food should cost a lot more. I'll put it like that. Their food should have a higher market rate, although that might encourage them to a higher tax on it. As much as I hate taxes, a higher tax on non-organic food. That's what we're going for. There we go. It all comes down to not teaching the children to grow and cook their own food. Yeah, yeah. How do you expect me to climb Ben Nevis? LOL. Well, we'll find a way. We've got to include you. We can't exclude anyone. We'll find a way to include you. I'll put it like that. Start with the Yorkshire Free Peats. We're inside Pennygent and Ingleborough. A great day out. That might work actually, because they're not mountains, are they? They're hills. Or the Malvern Hills was another one we could do, wasn't it? No, the soil still needs feeding, and it costs more to use organic feeds. I think it should be. Yeah, I think taxes away. You were so right, Richard. It is so messed up. Turbo Stream, Stuart, I'm 55, and when I was at school, the boys did woodwork and the girls did cooking. I would have loved to learn to cook and grow veg. Your kids are the lucky ones. Totally right. Totally right. Your soup box is in the post, Rich. Soup box. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. We need to disagree on this one. I have an Audi Q7. I want a Rolls Royce. Should I get one at the same price as one? Took more time to build, grow, care for, etc., etc. Right. But my point here is that if everybody was eating organic food, which is better for us as humans, we should be encouraging that. But because food that is lower in nutrients, low and less healthy for us, is cheaper to produce, which is worse for us and costs us more if you think about it in the long run, because it's going to cost the NHS and our healthcare more, then we have a problem. That's the difference, I would say, is that you buy a Q7, an Audi and a Rolls Royce, there's really, they both do the same job. I don't want to say they're exactly the same because they're not. You do get what you pay for, but we're not eating them. Don't do Ben Nevis. Mega disappointment. Queues everywhere. Yeah, I've heard that. Not to mention the poo bags. I've heard that as well. Yeah, I mean, we might. Lee might back out soon though, but we might do all three. I doubt it. After this event. Right. So what we're gonna talk about community gardening next week. I'm going to start trying to wind down now. Community gardening, and did you come up with a challenge for me? I know it was suggested to put my feet up. I'm going to be doing that tomorrow. I feel I haven't given this my all tonight because I haven't done the videos to cook along. I can't remember what challenge you sent me. I think it was to climb this mountain, and I didn't do any of your photos. If you send photos in, I'll use those for next week. Stuart Jackson says, I love this show. We start on nematodes and end up talking about the price of organic food and putting the world to right. I just love that we are allowed to put our points across. Thank you. Totally right. This is, again, one of the things I think people have gone wrong in this world, is that we all have a different point of view. As I've said time and time again, I have my point of view, and I'm not saying I'm right. You have your point of view, and I respect your point of view. You are completely allowed to say your thing. There are things that you might say that I would say is completely unacceptable, and that's there is a line, but they are extreme, very extreme. I believe that we need to respect everybody has opinions, and we need to be free to open them and discuss them, because I think that's how we can do. But I think that's how we can actually get on. Snowdon, far more busier than Ben Nevis. No railway for starters. I was surprised. We went up the second easiest route, and we hardly saw anybody on the way up until we got to the last bit, and then there was loads of people. Night night, everyone. Thanks, Richard. This was a great show tonight, says Andrew. Thank you, Andrew. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. I was worried I was going to go off on my soapbox and it's going to turn people off, but it hasn't. It's increased viewership. Jenny says, challenges to go through seeds, etc. What do you need to order? Any bare roots? Choose something new to try next. Yeah, okay, Jenny, that sounds like a good one, actually. I can do that. I was going to mention vine weevil and general purpose nematodes. That's this one, but I can get a word in. Go ahead, mention it now. Opinions are based on individual thoughts. Yeah, and opinions, I totally agree. Opinions are based on individual thoughts, individual experiences, and everybody has different experiences in life. And I think, and I've said this about so many things, I'm trying to think of something we could use as an example. Weed killer debate. We use that. Some people use weed killer, some people don't. I would never knock anybody for using weed killer, but I would always say I prefer not to use it. And I think that once we start that discussion, we're in a much better place. And that goes for everything, even politics. And we don't do politics here. There is an easy path up the Malvern Hills, as there was once a calf up there. You would get a wheelchair up there. Are you guys saying now that you want us to do a long walk like this one day? We can certainly do it. I think that's a good idea. It is amazing that you are here tonight. It could have been very easy for you not to do your show. So again, thank you for always being here. I always try to be here. I don't want to let you guys down. One thing that I've learned over this planning for this mountain climb is just how much having this conversations, and I didn't quite get it until I've done this. We've had this WhatsApp group with the 9 of us chatting. We've all got to know each other, and I didn't quite realize just how much it brings people together. And I've learned a lot, and I thank you all for just coming in every Sunday and joining in with this. It really does make the show. Digwa says, absolutely, Richard. If we were all perfect, then there would be millions of odd Digwells. You've misspelt my name. You know I'm perfect. like the show. Yeah, please do like the show. Please do. Really would like it. Digwell, that would be and make an amazing t-shirt. Treat yourself to a Mackie D's tonight. I've had my dinner. Amanda very kindly cooked me a lovely dinner. Scarfell Pike next. That is one on the list. Turbo Stream or Massive Garden Centre breakfast. Digwell. Indeed. No more t-shirts. LOL. Quickly check Instagram. Nothing going on over here. Well, it is literally 7:30, so I think it's time to start winding down the show and getting out of here. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I didn't know if I was going to be able to do the show. We did, got back in time, and it's been great. It's been great chatting to you. Thank you so much for letting the conversation really go, Led. So I actually quite enjoyed having this rant, and I think you did as well, secretly. More importantly, I want to thank every one of you that donated and supported us on this mountain climb. Getting 6 schools gardening has really blown us away. We're really, really pleased with how that has turned out. We had the guys on here a couple of months ago. It's really have really supported us, and it's really great to see the gardening community come together and help each other out in these times and do what we need to do. Right, I'm going to start gushing in a minute. So thanks so much for joining me. Have a good week, everyone. We'll be back next Sunday at 6. There is a podcast out tomorrow all about the Autopot system, which Autopot do sell all over the world. Next Sunday, community gardening. I'm hopefully going to get some other bits out during the week as well. Got to up my content game. I'm rambling, I know. There's something else I was going to say. Please do send in photos, videos for next week as well, especially if you've got a community garden near you. Right, guys, you take care. I'll speak to you again next Sunday at 6. Thank you so much.